The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
We love it.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, March 5th, 2014, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We also open up today with a heavy heart. I got a call earlier today from Herb Thrasher informing me that one of our biggest fans, one of our big 420 radio and Herb Thrasher Flower Hour supporters, Big Jim, has passed away. So we're dedicating this show today to Big Jim. You may have seen him in the chat room at times as J3D3RMAN, Jaderman, or whatever that is. He has passed on, and we are going to miss him. So horns up, Big Jim. Roll Tide, roll. This one's for you. On today's show, we will be doing our Ladies of Legalization segment. We're going to take a look at the state of Georgia, where a medical marijuana bill has made some progress there in Georgia, of all places. Peachtree Normal's Sharon Ravert will be with us to discuss that, and also the event that she'll be holding this month on the 22nd in Atlanta, Georgia. 420 Radio will be there. Major Neil Franklin will be there. Keith Stropp will be there. We'll be bringing you as much coverage from that as we possibly can. So stay tuned for that. At 5:30, we will be doing our Ladies of Legalization segment. Also on today's show, we'll have time for a radical rant. In today's rant, oh my goodness, there's, Project SAM, right? The Smart Approaches to Marijuana, the misnamed Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Well, they're setting up chapters all around the country, trying to make it seem as if this is some sort of grassroots movement. And their New England director, Heidi is her name, posted a treatise so full of reefer madness, it's virtually a top 10 list. So we're just going to go through that in the Radical Rant today and give you the top 10 talking points to break down their top 10 talking points. Also on today's show, we'll have time for some daily toker tunes. We're going to get a great tune from Dengue Fever, so check that out in our Daily Toker Tunes today. In Behind the Headlines, we're going to take a look at Oregon politics because we've got some news to break on the fate of legalization in the Oregon legislature. We'll also bring that to you in our 420 Radio News that also includes headlines on grow licensing in Washington State, medical marijuana in Florida, of all places, and a woman who lost her job over legal marijuana. Stay tuned. It's all coming up on The Russ Belville Show.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The Law Office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email firedupLawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today. 420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts. Hey tokers and tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, March 5th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. 420 Radio News is brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition. Oregon legislators will not be referring a legalization proposal to the November ballot. Senate Bill 1556 does not have enough votes to pass the Senate. Senator Jeff Cruz, who helped to kill the bill, said, quote, "It's dead at this point and for good reason," end quote, preferring to wait and see how legalization in Washington and Colorado shakes out. This leaves the task of legalization up to Paul Stanford, whose group CRRH has already collected 35,000 signatures for a constitutional amendment to recognize the right to use marijuana, and 25,000 signatures for a statutory initiative to tax and regulate marijuana. And Anthony Johnson, whose group New Approach Oregon has the backing of several deep-pocket funders, is convinced they can place their legalization initiative on the ballot. Senator Rod Monroe is aware of the activist push for legalization, but believes, quote, "I'm not convinced it will automatically pass in this state," end quote. In other Oregon news, the House Rules Committee has approved a version of a dispensary regulation bill. In the Senate version of the bill, cities and localities were stripped of any power to ban newly legalized medical marijuana dispensaries, leaving them only the power to reasonably regulate time, manner, and place of business. House lawmakers sought to reinstate the power to outright ban dispensaries, but have now settled on a compromise, allowing cities and localities the power to enact a moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries until May of 2015. The new bill allows dispensary owners who applied for a license to get their $4,000 fee refunded if their location runs afoul of a moratorium. The bill goes back to the House floor and, if passed, back to a joint committee to work out differences in the House and Senate versions. Washington State has issued its first recreational marijuana grower's license. Sean Green of Spokane is the chief executive of Couchlock Productions and has operated medical marijuana dispensaries in Spokane and Seattle. The State Liquor Control Board issued the license at its Wednesday meeting, granting Green the right to grow 21,000 square feet of marijuana. The board expects to license retail outlets later this spring with the goal of beginning legal recreational sales by July. There were over 2,200 applications for the 334 pot shops allowed under state law, leading officials to expect to conduct lotteries in some of the more populous areas to determine who gets the coveted licenses. Green expects to employ 30 to 50 people at his grow operation. He said, quote, "I'm coming home with jobs, Spokane," as he talked to the audience attending the meeting. Board Chairwoman Sharon Foster said, "We're proud of you. We now know there are folks out there who follow the rules and are willing to be participants of this brave new venture in Washington State." A Florida House panel has voted to legalize the high CBD, low THC form of medical marijuana that has shown such promise for children with epilepsy. The House Criminal Justice Committee voted 11-1 to allow patients to use the so-called Charlotte's Web oil. Bill sponsor Representative Matt Gaetz called it common sense and said, quote, "We're relying on an empowered consumer and an empowered physician," end quote. It is the first time any medical marijuana legislation has advanced in Florida, and the state will be voting on a much more comprehensive medical marijuana amendment in November. The lawmakers were moved by the case of Rayanne Mosley, an 11-year-old girl who has suffered debilitating seizures all of her life. When her parents, Peyton and Holly, visited Colorado and saw the remarkable recovery many epileptic children have experienced, they lobbied hard to get lawmakers to take up the issue. They explained, quote, "These kids can walk now, these kids can talk now, these kids are saying, 'I love you' to their parents for the first time," end quote. Woman loses longtime job over business venture related to pot. This one's from foxnews.com. Amy Dannemiller, who is also known as Jane West, had a concept for pairing marijuana with catered gourmet food. Dannemiller cultivated her Jane West image and alter ego in an effort to venture into the tenuous marijuana business. Those efforts had repercussions. After West, the name she's now going by, was featured in a national documentary at one of her underground Bring Your Own Marijuana events at a Denver art gallery, she was fired from her day job at a still unnamed national corporation for being seen inhaling. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, March 5th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available exclusively at the National Cannabis Coalition. Visit ncc420.com to download today. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be back with Behind the Headlines right after this. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio.
Marijuana, do you wanna? Mary, do you wanna tonight?
As marijuana goes mainstream, you need to be armed with the facts. Nobody can teach you better than Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. You may know Dr. Mitch from his column in High Times magazine or his weekly appearance on The Russ Belville Show. Dr. Mitch is also the author of some of the best books on marijuana science, culture, history, and health, including Understanding Marijuana, Parents' Guide to Marijuana, Pot Politics, and more. Visit Amazon.com and search for Mitch Earlywine, that's EARLEYWINE, and order your books today. You can also contact Dr. Mitch by email at 420research@gmail.com.
Hemp Radio starring Patty Cakes from Orange County, California. Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific on 420radio.org.
Welcome back, everybody. Quarter after the hour, and time for us to go behind the headlines. And we opened up today with two stories coming out of Oregon where marijuana legalization is on the front burner. But our legislature has punted. They're not going to get stuck with it. I don't know. Maybe Kevin Sabet convinced them. I don't know. That one senator saying, I'm not convinced it'll be automatic. Well, we're just going to have to see about that. Senator Monroe wants to call our bluff here in Oregon, saying he doesn't think we can pass this automatically. Oh, silly, silly Senator Monroe. Can you have no eye? Do you have no eye for trends, for polling, for the will of the people? We tried legalization in 2012. And when we did so, it went on the ballot with absolutely no limits. Seriously, we were going to legalize unlimited plants, unlimited possession, so long as you didn't sell any. And we were going to legalize a recreational market whose growers would be regulated by a panel selected by the growers. And it was put forth by a guy who's got a rap sheet and kind of a reputation throughout town and isn't well liked in the media and has a number of bad stories written about him. So we had a flawed messenger. And we had very little funding. The whole thing made it to the ballot with about $400,000 in funding. Nobody at the national level would step up with any funding. So volunteers helped to continue to get it on the ballot, helped to campaign for it. And there were no states in America that had ever legalized marijuana. Marijuana had gone 0 for 8 in statewide legalization initiatives. And the National Gallup poll at the time was below 50% as far as support for marijuana legalization. And Senator Monroe, with all of that, with all those albatrosses and anchors and anvils around our necks, and that's just the A's, we got 47%, dude. 47%. Currently, our polls here are well above 55% for support of legalization, and far above that when we look at the younger demographics. So what we have right now, we've got Paul Stanford from the Campaign from the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. Now, he's the same guy who pulled the 47% initiative, but he's made some changes to it. It's no longer wide open unlimited legalization. It's 24 plants and 24 ounces, just like the medical limits. And it's no longer a self-selecting regulatory board. It's a regulatory board that would be appointed by the governor. So the same measure that got 47% has been amended now to bring it more in lines with the medical program's limits. It's bound to get better than 47% if it makes the ballot again this year. And it's already got a third of the signatures it needs. Well, technically maybe a fifth. You really want to go for 150% of your signature goals, but they've gotten 25,000 signatures out of the 87,000 they need, and that's just with volunteer signature gatherers so far as I know. Paul's also proposing HEMP, the Help End Marijuana Prohibition Amendment. I think that's what it stands for. I could be wrong, but HEMP Amendment, which would just be a short one-sentence amendment that grants people the right to the personal use and cultivation of cannabis, and then lets the legislature figure out what the rules will be around that. The constitutional amendment's already gotten 35,000 signatures. It needs about 116,000 here in the state of Oregon. And if those are the dark horse candidates in the running here, because again, we're talking about a flawed messenger and little ability to raise major funds nationwide, the other option we have, the conservative option we have, is Anthony Johnson's new approach Oregon, which would legalize 4 plants and 8 ounces. It would create a commercial grower's license for $1,000 that would allow you to grow many plants, many. I don't even think there's a limit to how many plants you could grow with this $1,000 commercial license that wouldn't require you to sell any of the marijuana you grow. And marijuana would be taxed only $50 an ounce at the production level. No retail sales taxes here in Oregon because we don't have sales tax. So Senator Monroe, I don't think you made the right bet here. We're going to legalize in 2014. You just watch. Never bet against weed in Oregon. We're going to make this happen. We got jobs. We need tax revenue here. Stick around. We'll be right back with some music.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. 23 after the hour, and I got word from Gordon Green earlier today that he was just exhausted. You know, it's late out there in Spain. It's getting toward midnight, or is it after midnight? Anyway, it's late out there in Spain, so he had to crash, but he did send forth a great tune for us from a band that I first fell in love with about 5 years ago when I was first setting up the Daily Toker Tunes here for, well, what was the normal daily audio stash. And part of it was, at the time, I had to only get what was called pod-safe music. That's music that you don't have to pay ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC for licensing, right? And it usually consists of self-produced artists, unsigned artists, and promos that you used to be able to get on a number of websites. They've kind of cut down on that lately. Anyway, when I went to one of these promo websites to try to find some music, I started typing in search terms like marijuana or weed or hash and so forth. Eventually, I got around to typing in the term bong, and I came upon a song that was called Sni Bong, S-N-I, Bong, Sni Bong, and it was by a group called Dengue Fever. Now, the group features a lead singer singing in half English, half... Oh, and I don't even know the name of the language, but it's Cambodian, but that's not the name of the language, I don't think. But anyway, speaking in that Southeastern Asian language, and it turns out that in that language, Sni Bong means I love you, or is something like that. Anyway, it doesn't really mean a bong. But the song was great. I loved the sound of the song, kind of exotic sounding. The singer was really compelling, so I kept it in the rotation. Well, turns out that they're quite a popular group out of Los Angeles, and we've got a song today that Gordon Green has supplied to us that is entitled Cement Slippers. And we actually have the official video for this. So let's get right to it. This is Dengue Fever with Cement Slippers.
My girlfriend loves everything at the beach except the water, the sand, and the sun. Here comes the water.
My boyfriend loves everything about me except the endless hours of therapy.
Here comes the water. Here comes the sun. Girlfriend loves everything about me, but when I stare at the girls as if I'm free. Here comes the water. Here comes the sun. And it wastes the time on me, and it wastes the over me.
Then pours for eternity.
Sun cooked skin extra crispy. The slipper fits me heavily. Here comes the water. Here comes the sun. And it wastes the time.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420.
In the afternoon, if I'm home, I smoke marijuana.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana, yeah, yeah. I got my ganja.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
Fun.
Oh, hello. I'm Big Daddy, and I want you to join me at the Funky Roller Ring. We're partying hard over here, baby. So stop on by, check out the funky grooves, and shake your booty too.
Don't get in too deep, brother. Don't get in too heavy. Don't get so you can move about whenever you get ready.
In 1929, Pauline Sabin began the women's movement to end alcohol prohibition. 4 years later, the 21st Amendment was passed. Women are crucial to ending adult marijuana prohibition, and we celebrate women's marijuana activism in a segment we call Ladies of Legalization.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and we are going all the way across the country here to Atlanta, Georgia, and visiting with our friend Sharon Ravert, the executive director of Peachtree NORML. Sharon, how are you?
I'm doing well, Russ. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, great to have you here. And I got to say, I'm looking at your profile picture on the Skype, and you've got this great shot of you and me at the Astoria column with my former dog, Roscoe. It's going to make me shed a tear.
Aw, Roscoe. Oh, he's still your dog. He's not your former dog.
That's right. He's still my dog. He's just not with me. Doggone it. All right. So we've got so much to talk about here about what's going on in Georgia. And the biggest shock and surprise of all is you guys actually are passing some form of medical marijuana down there. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, it's actually House Bill 885. It's very, very limited. In fact, it's probably the most limited medical marijuana bill that has ever been passed. But and we're not positive that it'll pass, but it did come out of the House committee unanimously, and it went on to the House floor, and it passed 171-4.
Jeez.
And so now it has been assigned to the Senate and to the same sister committee over there, which is Health and Human Services. So the next step is to go to Health and Human Services for that committee hearing. Hopefully it will pass out. I've been told that it will. And then it'll go to the full Senate, and we have about 9 days to convince the full Senate that we need to move forward with this as a first step. And they are starting to realize that. That this is not going to get anybody medicine, and it's only very limited to a small scope, and to what they are trying to sell it as is a CBD oil only bill, but it is really based on the 1980 bill that was passed in Georgia, and they did not strike out THC. It allows for vaporization and other things, but does not allow for smoking. And it does cover cancer patients and people with glaucoma. But we've got a long, long way to go. But last year, even saying the word marijuana in the state capital in Georgia would fall on either deaf ears or lots of laughter. And now they're not laughing so much anymore. They're starting to realize that they've got to do something. So that's a step in the right direction.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because so much of the attention paid to this bill in Georgia, and Representative Alan Peake here, has been the parade of the sick children, of the epileptic children, and how much the CBD oil will work for them. But are you telling me here that there's nothing in passing this that would stop someone who's got seizures from being able to use a whole plant THC, CBD, both in the herb, so long as they vaporize?
It seems that way.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So
there's a lot of stuff. It's not real defined, Russ. And there's, I guess somebody looking at it from the perspective of, law enforcement and these things like that may look at it differently than we do. I like to look at the glass as being half full and read between the lines. To me, in politics, a lot is said by the unspoken or the unwritten.
Yes.
It's not necessarily as important what it does say as what it does not sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's how this bill is kind of written. Now, it's not in its final stage. I'm sure it's going to go through some work in the Senate, and that's what we've been doing this entire time as normal. And of course, these parents are pushing CBD-only oil just for their kids, but they're uneducated and they're desperate, and I understand that. And now they are finally reaching out to us, realizing that this isn't going to work, and they're starting to understand the logistics of it. And we've got a lot more work to do, but we've got a lot of great plans and strategies that I think are going to work great.
All right.
We will see.
And this is based off of kind of reviving, like you said, this 1980 law that was passed at the height, of course, Jimmy Carter being the governor and then moving on to become the president. There was a lot of movement back then toward medical marijuana. What was it that kept it from being enacted in 1980?
They started giving it out a little bit. At the very beginning, and dispensing it to people. Of course, they'd just send you home with some joints and say, it was a therapeutic research type act. Back then, it didn't have to be approved by the FDA, obviously, but they just give you some joints and take them home and smoke them and tell us how you feel, and did it help, that kind of thing. But it was reliant on the federal government providing the cannabis. They did for a very short time. I'm assuming it was, my understanding, it was under the same act where they were giving it, and still do, to people like L.V. Musica. Okay? And we had access to it for a short amount of time, and then when they shut that system down, it shut down the whole thing, and nobody pushed forward, and I'm not sure exactly why, but I had... I was in high school. I don't know what to say.
Well, me too. And I've got two words. Ronald Reagan, I think, is what happened.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Anita Bryant and Ronald Reagan.
That's right. Can't forget Anita Bryant. Oh, my God. I had to bring her up. Blast from the past. The other thing we had to talk about, I want to make sure we don't forget, is you've got big events coming up here in Georgia just this month. So you want to give us a rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. It just so happens that our legislative session is going to be over around March 20th, and 2 days later we will be holding the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference, our second annual, and you'll be here. Neil Franklin, we've got a great lineup of doctors that are going to be here. Dr. Uma, I cannot say her last name, is coming in from Seattle, and she works in cannabis therapeutics, very passionate, very educated, Harvard educated, and very educated on cannabis therapeutics. So she's coming in. We've also got a doctor from Atlanta. And so we've got this great lineup. We're going to focus on, the beginning of the day is going to be focused on how to get involved, how to push the issue forward in the South and strategies, and a little bit on the medical panel. And then the afternoon is going to be focused on the harms of prohibition, be it the harms to patients or the harms to non-patients. And then we're going to hold a candlelight vigil. That's going to be on the 22nd. It's going to be held at the Georgia Tech Hotel and Conference Center in the Grand Ballroom. We've got quite a few sponsors. We're really excited about it and have a lot of people come out. We're selling tickets like crazy right now. This is a venue that'll hold 200, but he said that he'd give us more room if we needed it. So hopefully we'll fill the place up, and we're inviting our legislators. They want to learn about this. It'd be the perfect time for them to come learn about it. And so we're hoping that they'll come out. And then the Friday after that, which I hope you will also be in town for, there's another thing that we're involved in. I'm going to be speaking at. There's a new coalition in Georgia called the Georgia Coalition to End the New Jim Crow. And they're holding a fundraiser. It's like $10 to get in, no big deal. And Jaziri X is coming down from Philadelphia to do some spoken word. He spoke at the DPA conference in Denver this year, and part of the hip hop movement. And he's bringing down Neil Franklin as well. So Neil will be back in town for that. And it's going to be just an open conversation about how we're going to end the racial bias and end the drug war in general for all races.
That's excellent to hear. A fantastic lineup of speakers. And it reminds me that tomorrow, Drug Policy Alliance is having a teleconference with Michelle Alexander, the Ohio State University professor who wrote The New Jim Crow and has kind of spearheaded this awareness in the black community. And when we get off the air, don't forget, send me an email and I'll give you the passcode and everything if you want to be involved in that teleconference.
Oh, I would love to. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, and
okay,
I've asked permission to see if I can actually record it or stream it live for the audience, but I haven't heard back yet. We'll follow up on that, and if so, I will let everyone know through the Twitter account, 420radio.org, or just follow me at Radical Russ. All right, so we're looking forward to heading to Atlanta, and I'm sure I'll be able to stay through that week. We'll be doing a series of live shows from Georgia, and we'll have to work on putting together some guests, perhaps, to have come in and discuss activism there in the South.
Absolutely, that would be wonderful. Yeah, Dr. Uma would definitely. She's going to stay for a few days, and a few other people. We've got tons of people that will line up. Absolutely. We'll figure out a good place to be, and that'll be centrally located, and bring them on in.
Okay. Looking forward to that. Now, also wanted to know how things are going as far as recruitment and activism with Peachtree Normal, the group that you're a part of, and, you know, just how in general people are waking up in the South to this fight.
Well, it's going really well. Over the last about year and a half, I guess it's been almost 2 years since we had got Peachtree Normal and started it up and booted it up. And we, of course, have been getting great response from the public. Now that the marijuana issue is being brought up on every single newspaper, media outlet, everywhere since December 31st when they started talking about Colorado, now the issue has changed to Georgia and what we're doing. And so that is helping us as an organization bring in people. We've made a move, albeit very, very teeny, and it's waking people up, and they're realizing, oh my gosh, we're talking about it. Maybe now is the time to get involved. And that's our battle cry at this point, really, is, you know, now's the time. And so hopefully, and the money's starting to come in. We're getting a lot more volunteers helping us take care of things that we just don't have time to take care of. So it's been a blessing, and it's also helped us to find out who our friends and foes are under the Gold Dome.
Sure.
So it's done nothing but positive things. Everything that all of the activists have been doing all over the country are helping us, and we're just hoping what we're doing in Georgia can help some of the other states that are not maybe as far along as we are. It's just something that we've all got to do. We've all got to help each other.
I agree. And, you know, I think a large part of this also has to do with having great leadership like yourself, working hard to end this prohibition. And also, we've got Florida voting on medical marijuana this November. That should have a big effect on you guys. And we'll check in with you throughout the year to find out how things are going. Thanks, Sharon Ravert. Thanks, Peachtree Normal. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Sounds great. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. We believe it's time for a new approach on marijuana, and that Oregonians deserve a chance to decide in the 2014 general election. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. By implementing a strict system to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana, we can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Under our approach for 2014, 40% of funds would support K-12 education, 20% would support mental health and treatment services, and 15% would be dedicated to law enforcement. Public opinion, coupled with victories in Washington and Colorado, confirms marijuana legalization is inevitable. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you. 420 Radio, fighting prohibition since 2012.
Great. Drugs make me strong. Drugs make me smart. Drugs make me feel good. Drugs make me cool.
You believe that crap? Huh? You believe all that stuff they're handing you about drugs? You want to believe in something? How about yourself? Don't do drugs.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Marijuana is now America's smelly fish. It's actually a quote from the latest op-ed from the New England director of Project SAM, the misnamed Smart Approaches to Marijuana, or as I like to now call them, the Coerced Rehab for All Potheads Project, or CRAP. They're busy establishing local chapters all across the nation dedicated to promulgating this new kinder, gentler drug war where we're all just sentenced to rehab. And today, their New England field director, Heidi Heilman, wrote an op-ed that's a tour de force so replete with reefer madness that I'd be remiss if I didn't debunk it. So how purposefully ignorant is this woman about cannabis? Let us count the ways. Number one, quote, timpani roll. Quote, drug policy decisions are funded by a giant industry that sells an addictive psychotropic drug and the multi-million-dollar pro-marijuana lobby. Sorry. Pity these poor drug warriors, backed only by the annual $15 billion that's budgeted by the government to make daily drug policy decisions. Oh, these poor drug warriors fighting valiantly under the banner of that pauper, Patrick Kennedy. Oh, valiant drug warriors trying to defeat the giant industry that doesn't exist yet, and the 99% volunteer pro-marijuana lobby, whose funded organizations combined might have 1/10 of 1% of the drug war's budget. Anyone want to bet Heidi Heilman makes at least twice my freelance writer talk show host income? Her next point, quote, marijuana use directly contributes to mental illness, depression, psychosis, permanent loss of IQ and memory, heightened risk of heart attack or stroke, and school dropouts. Okay. Interesting then how marijuana use went up dramatically in the 1970s, but schizophrenia diagnoses declined. Or how IQ in college entrance tests show no correlation to the rise and fall in marijuana use. Now, marijuana use does increase your heart rate about as much as sex or climbing stairs. And problems that lead kids to pot also cause problems in school. Pot's a symptom, not a cause. Her next point, well, she tries to peddle the gateway theory that no one's buying by miscorrelating New England's high marijuana use rates with increases in heroin use. She says, quote, New Hampshire's heroin deaths have doubled this year. Authorities now report having one heroin overdose every 3 days. Wow. Every 3 days a heroin overdose. Wow. If we're really concerned about this epidemic of heroin abuse, perhaps we ought to ask the DEA why they approved a 1,600% increase in oxycodone manufacturing, otherwise known as synthetic heroin, in the medical marijuana era. That's right, 1,600% increase in the quotas that companies were allowed to produce of OxyContin. Now, there's so many heroin addicts out there that report choosing heroin when their OxyContin subscriptions lapse, and of course, heroin's a whole lot cheaper than OxyContin. I'd also ask the DEA, if we're so concerned about this epidemic of heroin abuse, why did they just approve a drug called Zohydro, which is now the purest and most potent form of oxycodone ever manufactured? It's not cut with acetaminophen, it's extremely potent, and it lacks the ingredient that prevents users from crushing it and snorting it or injecting it, the ingredient that we fought them to put OxyContin in, to put into OxyContin. If we're really worried about that, her next point, today's marijuana is 300% to 800% more potent than the pot of yesteryear. Okay. Then by that math, Marinol is 3,000% to 8,000% more potent. Except it's considered a safe and effective medicine. Look, folks, pot potency has increased, but it's not as if there wasn't good weed back in the day. It's just when it was seized back then, it also had sticks and seeds and leaf in it too. You mix that all together and test it, and it brought down the overall sample potency. And Marinol, which is perfectly legal, Schedule III drug, considered a safe and effective medicine, lacks CBD that moderates THC's psychoactivity. Potency of marijuana is irrelevant anyway because you're smoking it. When you smoke it, you smoke as much as you want to smoke until you get the feeling you want to get. It's not like alcohol drinking, where if you're drinking something that's of higher proof and you don't pay attention, you get blotto drunk when it kicks in 45 minutes later. Oh, I love this one. My favorite one. Number 5, quote, 1 in 6 who use marijuana before age 18 becomes addicted. No. Now, I've debunked this a number of ways. We've taken a look at, what is the definition of addiction and all these kind of things. I decided to just use simple arithmetic this time. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, there are about 60 million adults who tried marijuana before the age of 18. About 1/3 of those 60 million adults smoked marijuana in the past year. Now, if 1/6 of those 60 million adults who tried it before they were 18, if 1 out of 6 of them becomes addicted, that would be 10 million adult addicts out there, right? To get to the level where we get 10 million addicted marijuana smokers, we have to include everyone who has smoked 4 or more days per month. 4 or more days per month. So, this stat only makes sense if you think someone smoking a joint on a Saturday night is an addict. Number 6. Data shows 52% of the public uses alcohol, a legal drug, and 7.3% uses marijuana, an illegal drug. What happens if we legalize marijuana and use rises to 25%, 35%, or 50%? Open up the psych wards, treatment centers, and assisted living beds, America, and watch your social and public school costs soar. Really? Really? 1/4 to half the country wants to smoke pot, but they won't because it's currently illegal. All right. Look, The greatest rate ever of pot smoking registered in America was 1979, and that was 13.2% of the public had smoked monthly. The lowest rate of pot smoking ever registered, it was in 1993, it was 4.6%. So today is almost twice as bad as 1993 and half as bad as 1979, and yet we've seen no great difference in the public health and social costs between the late 70s, the early 90s, and now that's attributable to marijuana. Now, look, I don't doubt that marijuana use is going to go up when we legalize. When I discovered that marijuana didn't give me hangovers like alcohol, didn't give me an upset stomach like aspirin, didn't give me liver damage like acetaminophen, didn't give me sexual dysfunction like antidepressants, I replaced them all with marijuana. So yeah, if legality opens up that option for more adults, we'll actually see public health and social costs decline. Number 7, quote, sentencing reform that leads to treatment, recovery, and strong supports is the better alternative and will yield a more healthy, productive populace. We must focus on practical changes in marijuana policy that neither demonizes users nor legalizes the drug, end quote. Well, geez, lady, what's more demonizing than treating someone like a criminal addict? Sam's glaring flaw is the lack of any plan to deal with the illegal marijuana markets. Their plan is sentencing reform that all it is forcing pot smokers into treatment and absolutely no reform for pot growers, traffickers, and sellers. They must falsely assume their treatment can somehow eradicate all consumer demand for marijuana that fuels the teenage dealers in high schools and the street corners, all the way up to the domestic growers who ruin public lands and the Mexican drug cartels that torture and behead their rivals. Number 8, quote, Big Tobacco kept the public in the dark for a half-century by clouding evidence that smoking caused lung cancer. Big Marijuana is following the same playbook, clouding evidence of harm. As the industry takes root, expect big tobacco companies to take over. Well, Big Tobacco had to lie about its product because it is toxic and highly addictive. Now, it's Big Rehab, Big Pharma, and Big Prison that have to lie about the harms of marijuana to convince people to stick with a failed prohibition that funds their industries and today's criminal Big Marijuana. Number 9, quote, marijuana is being positioned as harmless, and the emerging industry is luring in our youth. Buzz, damn you. Thank you. The only people who say marijuana is harmless are the marijuana prohibitionists who keep putting those words in our mouth. What we do say is marijuana is objectively less harmful than alcohol, tobacco, and nearly all medications. Look, Big Tobacco had to hook youngsters because adults trying a cigarette for the first time won't let peer pressure override their instinctual revulsion to cigarette smoke, and it won't override their understanding of smoking's harms. And number 10, the icing on the cake, the cherry at the top of the sundae, quote, a young Indonesian tobacco control activist referred to tobacco as Indonesia's smelly fish, explaining, we have a saying, when you hide a smelly fish, you can't hide it forever because the smell will come out eventually. Marijuana is now America's smelly fish, and more of us are starting to pick up the stench. Yeah, smelly fish. Yeah, there's a smelly fish, all right. It's America hiding the futility of prohibition. Did Heidi not learn anything from that last rotting fish we wrapped up in the 21st Amendment and threw away in 1933? Apparently not. Those who do not learn from history are condemned to be dumbasses. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us on Hour 1 here, the Russ Belville Show. Stay tuned for Toker Talk Radio. Hour 2 is coming up next. We'll have plenty to talk about. I just don't know what it is yet. We're doing it live, folks. I've had a splitting headache all day. Kind of affected me a little bit. We'll see what we can do. Oh, by the way, earlier today spoke with a producer from ABC News 2020, putting her on the trail of the Undergreen Railroad. She's going to meet us in Denver for 420 at the Cannabis Cup, so I'll keep you posted on that. All right, for Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant